Dear Neil, in your last video you mentioned something called leitmotif. Firstly, am I spelling that right? And secondly, I couldn't find a clear definition of it anywhere. So I wondered if you would be so kind to explain. What is leitmotif?
What is a leitmotif, and why should it matter? Well, a leitmotif initially was what was created by Richard Wagner, the great German composer of massive, massive operas. Now, these operas were so huge that they could run for hours and potentially, if you went and saw all of them in one go, days. And you had to have something to link your mind back to the music, time and time and time again. So what he did was come up with the idea that not just for every character, but for every theme, every idea in his operas, he would create a memorable musical sound, a moment that we would recognise if we heard it again. It needn't be anything very big. It could be just a particular rhythm. It could be the sound of the music going by, but that would immediately make us think not just of the character or the theme or the idea, but link it to other characters and ideas. And that would change as the character went on through the story and as the story itself evolved. It's clever stuff. I mean, in Wagner's particular case, everything comes back to the Rhine. So the music of the Rhine, the sound of the Rhine, is also to be heard in the sound of the Rhine maidens. It's heard in many of the characters who are involved in the Rheingold, for instance. So that you always get this link back. And the initial idea, whatever it is, the big idea, if you like, that can split and evolve into other smaller ideas, but they all come back to that first one. Okay, so how's that work with film scoring? I'll tell you. What we hear first in a film is the main theme. Now that theme is there to encapsulate everything, even though we don't know what everything is. The leitmotifs after that are moments that link to specific characters or ideas just in the same way as Wagner said, but they also link back to the main theme. And that allows us to make connections in the music. The obvious choice, for instance, is Star Wars. Here you have a big opening main theme that means the whole of Star Wars. But almost immediately you have a leitmotif which is about Luke and about Luke becoming a Jedi. So you might as well call it the quest theme. But then as soon as we heard that, we meet Princess Leia. And we get her theme, which is kind of like a noble princess theme. And then, of course, once we get to the second film, or the fifth, depending how you want to look at it, we get Darth Vader's famous theme. And from then on through, whenever we see Darth Vader, we hear that music, we link it back. And it's not such a big jump from the sound of Star Wars' theme itself and the sound of Darth Vader's theme. Now this is where leitmotifs really come into their own, because when we're sitting watching a film and hearing this music for the first time, we want things to link onto. And that's why memorable music is so important. It's great that we can hear it and remember it, particularly if we can hear it and remember it only after the very first time. And there's plenty of themes out there that have got leitmotifs to them. Think of Jaws. Think of How to Train Your Dragon. Think of, going back a few years, King Kong. The first man to make leitmotifs work in cinema was virtually the first man to create an entirely original cinema soundtrack of music which had nothing to do with any previous ideas of film music, and that was Steiner with King Kong, Max Steiner. He'd never scored a movie like King Kong before because nobody had made a movie like King Kong before. The fantasy was all being carried by the leitmotifs. So he gave us King Kong's theme, which opens the whole film. Then he gave us King Kong's leitmotif. Dee-da-dum, ba-dee-dum. Then he gave us Fay Wray's leitmotif, and that has got a bit of King Kong's leitmotif in there. Dee-da-dee, da-dee-dum. You can hear it. Her leitmotif grows out the back of his. And so even when we saw the first film that had what you would now think of as a modern film score, we were hearing leitmotifs, exactly as Wagner originally dreamed them up. Only now they were working at a level that millions of people would begin to understand.